Hello, it's Nancy Maddox on Shine Your Light Radio Ministry on WYTV7 from Charlotte. We're so happy to have you tuning in on our interview today. We have a very exciting lady entrepreneur that we're going to talk about, who talk about her testimony and everything she's done. But before we start, I'd like to just say that WYTV7 is a nonprofit. We do accept donations and seed money, and we are participating in Giving Tuesday on November the 27th. So we would appreciate it if you would log in and make a donation to WYTV7 on Giving Tuesday. We're going to really be promoting that throughout everything that we do from now till November the 27th. So thank you so much for that. Without further ado, let's go on forward. We have Miss Kimmy Shugali. And I apologize for butchering her name, but it's a little difficult to announce, and she'll kind of talk to us about that a little bit too. But she is a certified life and relationship expert, an award-winning international speaker, as well as a multi-award-winning author. She's written several books. We're going to talk about those a little bit tonight. And one of her mantras is live, love, relationship, and purpose. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. So she's also a realtor. So she's a working woman too, besides being a beautiful entrepreneur. So let's get started, Miss Kimmy. Tell me a little bit about your testimony, like where you came from and where you got to where you are.
So it's a long journey coming, and I really thank God for giving me another opportunity to leave. I started out as a teenager who did not know myself, got involved in the wrong relationship, and I ended up being raped at the age of 17. I never really talked about it until I was 41 and had marital issues going on that ended up my marriage. And at that point was when I started to really heal. Trace my steps to how I got a lot of pain in my life, and how I started to walk through resolving and healing from everything that I had buried underneath the rug, so that I could begin to live the life that God really intends for me, and to also help others along the journey to gain an awareness of who they are, really understand that when they know themselves enough and knows what works best for them, it's not what the world thinks works best, but what they know works best for them. They can now build on healthy relationships that will make their lives become better and not remain bitter.
Well, now you're living in Columbia, Maryland, and you have a beautiful accent. Where are you from originally?
Originally, I'm from Nigeria.
Okay. So when did you come to the United States?
I moved to the U.S. in 1997.
Oh, okay. And how old were you then?
I was in my 30s.
Oh, okay.
I'm close to my 50s now.
So you really did live in Nigeria for 30 years. So where
yes,
your birthplace was. Wow. Well, you probably did have a lot of trials and things that you had to go through there. So I'm happy that you kept your faith and that you let God lead you through that. That's just an awesome testimony. I want to talk a little bit about your books, and then I want to talk about your nonprofit. So let's start with your nonprofit, Love Not Hurt. Tell us what started that and how that's doing.
I started to really coach. I grew up in the ministry. My parents were, my dad was a preacher, my grandfather was a preacher, my great-grandfather was, and it was always about serving before anything else, serving other people, serving God, and really living the life that God really wants us to live in love. And I started to really coach other people after my healing process, became a certified coach. I would have people approach me that couldn't afford coaching, or I will speak at an event, and it was I was encountering people that were from the underserved areas. And for me, God never turns anyone away. So I really started to pray, God, what do you want me to do to really help these people out, knowing that I can't just walk away from them. Now that I've gained an awareness that everyone is in the image and likeness of God and they have to be treated that way, how can I help them? And as I was praying, the name Love Not Hurt came, and I registered that, and I started the ministry to really serve people that couldn't afford to pay for coaching, so that I wouldn't turn them away.
That's fantastic. So did Did the creation of your nonprofit came after you came to the United States or while you
Yes,
were
it
still
was.
in Nigeria?
That actually started here after my healing process, after I became a coach here. I had been counseling since I was younger, but I never really went into coaching. It came about 5 years ago when I started to really do the work of speaking globally and reaching out to others who needed help. And I will come across people approaching me at speaking engagements wanting help, and they couldn't afford coaching. And I was like, you know what? God, give me a heart to really serve, because that's what ministry is all about. And He gave me Love Not Hurt as a ministry. I'm still trying to get in Howard County where I live, which is to get into the school system and to begin to really speak to the teenagers, because that's the most where most of the issues arise, when we get lost as teenagers and don't really know who we are at that point. So I really started the
Absolutely.
nonprofit at that level to really get into the community and do a lot of work in the community and globally.
So you say you were raped at age 16. Was that a family member or a
17.
stranger?
That was someone that a couple of my friends had introduced to me. I wasn't dating, and everybody wanted me to start dating. And I thought, you know, all the girls are flunking after him. He wasn't looking at them. He was trying to get to be with me. So why not have a relationship with him? And then he had a birthday party. I was invited to the birthday party, and that was where I got raped.
Oh
I
my
couldn't even
word.
talk about it for a long time. I couldn't go back home knowing that my parents were influential, and I didn't want anybody thrown into jail or having to be in police custody. So I just kept quiet about it. I had a gun to my head during my rape. That was another reason why I couldn't talk about it, because I didn't know what could happen if I started to speak about it. I could get killed. My life could be in danger. My family could be in danger. So I decided to just keep it all to myself, as something I was ashamed of that happened to me. But during my, healing process, I started to realize we as women sometimes place ourselves in situations, and the way we carry ourselves, the way we dress up, sometimes will influence somebody's mind. The Bible talks about, not allowing your presentation to cause your brother or sister to sin. And I started during my journey of healing to realize that sometimes the way we dress up, even though we do it for ourselves, may tempt somebody else to where they take advantage of you at that point. And I traced it back to that extent of, it was likely what I was wearing that triggered. Plus, he was a teenager. Teenagers were doing silly things at that time. And I had to really go back during my healing process to forgive him. And I ended up praying with him because he was going through his own tribulations at that time. And we
Yeah.
we
So
kind of
was
started
was it
getting
a
back into, I gave him
was it
the
a
word of
date?
God.
Was it a date rape? Was it a date rape situation, or it just happened?
It just happened.
Oh, okay. Well, that happens a lot of times. That happens. Whatever we go through in our teen years, we have a tendency not to want to come forward, and a lot of it is because we don't want to embarrass our parents. I
Yes.
mean, you think about it. We hold all that in because we don't want to embarrass our family and our parents. And I believe that's even more so true in other countries too, because if your father and your grandfather and all of them were pastors and preachers, that would have been it would have been a devastating thing for
Yeah.
your family. So that's why, I think that's sometimes what puts that pressure on us to do that. But I thank God that we have a God that's awesome and full of
Yes.
grace that will help us through that. So that's just very, very interesting. And at this point in time, I'd just like to say, we're going to put this on the screen. The National Sexual Assault Hotline is 1-800-656-4673 for our viewers and our listeners, and we will put that number on here because anytime that type of situation comes up in any of my interviews, I like to let people know, because we have an international market that watches these shows, and I want them to know that there's a hotline that they can call if they are in trouble, if they're embarrassed to tell their parents or whatever. So let's get into your books now. Let's talk a little bit. I think your first book was Love, Sex, Lies, and Reality. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about that book. We only have a 30-minute interview, so I want to get all of them in. So tell me a little bit about that book and what inspired it and what brought it about.
Love, Sex, Lies, and Reality deals with issues that we hide underneath the rug, sometimes getting into the wrong relationship instead of finding ourselves, using the lies to cover up and using the sex as a form of comfort. But at the end of the day, when we're broken, when we're hurt, we have to wake up and face the reality of life about what got us to face those consequences and how we begin to really heal and get ourselves back up and begin to live again.
Wow, that's great. That's awesome. And so is this also a topic that you talk about at some of your speaking engagements?
Yes, I do. I really talk about how we use what we think is love, but it may be infatuation and lust in replacement of love, and how we use the sex as a tool to really draw a partner, especially for singles. I'm thinking if I give in to sex, maybe the relationship will go on another level. And then all the lies you tell yourself out of self-hate or out of not knowing, loving yourself enough, that gets you into the wrong relationships. And at the end of the brokenness, you have to face the reality of being broken and not coming to the point of uh, being truthful to yourself to heal enough to recognize that when you love yourself deeply enough, you can't face yourself in a place where you're getting hurt and getting into the wrong relationships.
Absolutely, and that's such a wonderful topic. I know when we air this broadcast, it's going to be very, very informative for a lot of people that are going to need to hear this. I mean, you're talking real talk, and you're just sharing a lot of things that really hurt you. And since you are a life coach, you know how to say it to help people. So at the end of the interview, I'm going to want to really be sure we get your contact information out so people, if they need help, they can call you. Your second book, I believe, was Beyond the Pain, A Return to Love. Is that right?
My second book was Being Single, A State for the Fragile Heart.
Okay, well, let's talk about that one then. Being Single, A State for the Fragile Heart.
Being single is a state for the fragile heart because it's a stage where we're supposed to really explore and discover who God really created to be and walk in our purpose. During coaching other people, during my own journey, during watching friends and family members, I learned a lot, and those were some of the things that I put together in the book to talk about how we explore, get into the wrong circle as teenagers, and get to lose ourselves, get into the wrong relationships, get into the wrong friendships, divert away from the path that God has set. And it's recognizing that as the single person, if you don't understand that your heart is very fragile and you need to guard your heart because that's where your treasure lies, you would end up giving your heart away and tying your soul to different people and figuring out that you're somebody different than who God really created you to be. And you may not even recognize your purpose any longer, but the goal is to come back to find yourself, to heal, to forgive others, to forgive yourself, and to live in newness.
And so would you say that this book is for younger people or older people or everyone?
It's for everyone because some of us are in our 40s and our 50s have also gone through the journey of not knowing who we are as singles and getting into the wrong relationships, maybe mimicking what we saw and having those limited beliefs based on how we grew up and our background, and finding ourselves still in the wrong relationships and repeating the cycles over and over again without really recognizing where the root cause of the problem is. It's going back to the root cause and really figuring out, how did I lose my steps from the beginning? How can I find myself back after a separation or a divorce? How can I get back into the purpose that God has created me for? Because the purpose is greater. And if you lose focus of the purpose and you're not aligning the purpose with the relationship, then you may end up with someone whose purpose is not in line with your God-given purpose, and you may never fulfill your purpose while being here.
Wow, you really said a lot there, because that is what happens. I mean, I don't care if you're a teenager going through your first relationship, and you get heartbroken, or whether you go through divorce, or even a death of a spouse,
Yeah.
that just puts you single again, and you're just really you're floundering. You don't know what to do. You don't know where to turn. You're overwhelmed, and all of a sudden you're single again, and that's just it really is nice to hear you say that we just need to back up and focus on our purpose, figure out what our purpose was, and get back on it, get back on the purpose. So, and if we do that, and of course, all of this is if we stay in tune with God and we listen to what He tells us to do, we will make it through anything, obviously. And so your third book was Beyond the Pain, A Return to Love. So they're kind of going in sequences here.
Yes,
so what about that book?
So Beyond the Pain talks about really most of the time when we go through life issues, we don't grieve. And because we don't grieve from certain things, we hold on to the pain for a long time. And the pain makes us become numb to ourselves. And in the process of being numb to ourselves, we end up going a different path than the path that God has set. And we lose the love that we need to have for ourselves, because the love you have is the love that you can give. If you don't have that love, you would end up in the wrong relationships that bring you to an awareness that you need to love yourself first. And so it's returning to God, the main love, the main source, connecting to who you really were, your true essence, to be able to recognize that when you're your true essence, you don't have to compromise who God created you to be with, who the world wants you to be. To recognize that you're a light, you're born to stand out, not feed in. And once you recognize that and you grow in that love, you can move beyond the pain. I have a quote in the book that says, when you come to realize who you are and love yourself deeply, no one will have the power to hurt you.
And isn't that true? That's kind of like the old saying when I was young was, "To thine own self be true."
Yeah.
And once you find that you love yourself, and that you're in love with yourself, then you can get through a lot of things, and you can build better relationships. So that's fantastic. I just love that. Also, tell me a little bit more about how God helped you through your challenges, because you've had an awful lot of challenges, and you're a long way from your home country too. So that was even a challenge for you there. But you've done so well and so beautiful. I just love that. So tell me how God helped you through it.
For me, it's always been the fact that I grew up in the church. I've always known God. I've always challenged Him as a child to really have that relationship with Him outside of what I've been taught in church or what I've learned from reading the Bible. I really have the desire to connect with Him on a personal level. And through the process of going through all the challenges that are stepping stones to me finding myself, I challenge God to really prove who He is to me. And He continues to do that on a daily basis. My full name means God takes care of me. So I always go back to Him and say, you don't have that. My parents named me this for a wrong reason. There's a purpose behind you having me have the name God takes care of me. And you always have to show up to honor that word that you've spoken into my life. And because your word cannot return to you void, you would always prove who you are in every circumstance.
Wow, that's right. That's exactly right. Um, let's talk a little bit about some of your international speaking engagements. Give us a little synopsis of your speaking engagements, where you've gone, and kind of where you've spoken, and what your audience is.
I've spoken in India. I spoke in India last year. I was actually called to a women's conference. But while there, I was also drawing the attention of a teenage high school principal that brought the teenage girls to the event so that I could speak to them. And it's really getting to connect with women, children, and men that are going through life issues. I've also spoken in England on several locations where I was invited to come and connect with family conferences and three-day conferences just to be able to help other people. I have other countries online. I have Ireland. I have Nigeria online for next year. God giving me the grace and the help to get there.
And so when do you go home to Nigeria to visit your family, or is your family here too?
My family is in different parts of the world. My mom is back in Nigeria. My father passed away in 1999, but I do visit family in London and Nigeria frequently.
Yeah, I used to work for a company called Get Success Publishing out of Augusta, Georgia, and the owner of that company was an African from Nigeria.
Oh, great.
And his parents were quite affluent too, and he flew home to be with them maybe every other year. It was really expensive to go there,
Yeah, it is.
but he would always have the same anecdotes as you talk about, and it just seems like most of the time when you come from a country, those countries like that, that you're just so grateful that you're here or that you've had the opportunity. But he went to school in England from Nigeria. He went to business school in England. So I thought that was interesting. Is Nigeria and England in close proximity? I don't know. Geographically?
About 7 hours away. My father schooled here, so my father schooled here in England. So I I grew
So
up
it's
with
not that far, right? I mean, so
no,
seven
no.
hours away. I never understood it. I was talking to him. I worked for him for 3 years, but as I was talking to him, I never understood. I always thought Nigeria was a long ways from
Yeah.
places, but it's not. It's 7 hours from England,
Yeah.
right? So I guess
Yes,
that's
it's
why.
7 hours. Yeah.
Yeah, wow, that's interesting. Also, I want to talk a little bit about Shine Your Light Radio Ministry and let you know what we're about. Shine Your Light Radio Ministry is a ministry that allows my guests to come on and shine their light. And it's not about me or not about the radio show. It is about the guests that we have on here and then shining their light into the world. And you have an awful lot of shining that you do in the world, and I'm really excited about that. I hope this show gets a lot of viewers and a lot of people watching and asking questions. Um, let's see. But I just really am excited about that. And the mantra of WYTV7 Christian Broadcasters Network is, if we reach one, we've done our job.
Yeah.
And we do air these shows internationally. So chances are you'll get some viewers from Nigeria if they recognize the name that you're using over here when we post it, on the social media and everything. We do a lot of advertising to get the shows, to get viewers to watch it. But I have one last question. We're almost out of time. And shine your light. Give the listeners one powerful takeaway to really inspire them to be better and leave their mark on the world. Miss Kimmy?
Every single day that God brought you to life is an opportunity to start over again. We've been conditioned to take yesterday into today. God doesn't give us the mildew from yesterday. Every day it's brand new mildew. And you have to recognize that the mildew is the wetness, the spiritual uplifting to you getting refreshed on a daily basis. It's an awakening to realize that every day you have the breath, you have the life, as long as he wakes you up. Not everybody gets the privilege, but as long as God is granting you life, you can start over again, leaving the pain behind, recognizing that as we are in the fall, the trees don't hold on to the dead leaves, they shed them so that they can prepare themselves for the new leaves that are going to come with the newness and begin to flourish again. Even though they dry up in the fall and the winter time, there is still nutrition in the roots, in the stem. And that is where strength lies. There is a lot of nutrition in us, but if we focus on the pain, we will never really connect to the strengths that God gives us on a daily basis. So it's letting go of the pain and becoming awakening every day to the newness, to start over and to live while God is still granting us life.
Wow, thank you so much for that. That's awesome. I just want to give that National Sexual Assault Hotline again, 1-800-656-4673, because it's time for people to speak up and to stand up and to get rid of that baggage that they're holding on them. And that is a great place to start. Also, Ms. Kimmy, I'd like for you to give some information to us so we can get people in touch with you if they need to talk and if they need to use any of your services, and where they can get your books and things like that.
So my books are available on my website, www.kemionline.com, all one word. They're also on Amazon, Kindle, Nook, Barnes & Nobles, Books A Million, Kobo, and they can also get them through my Facebook page. I think my Facebook store is still active. If it's not active, my website link is on my Facebook page. I'm on Facebook. I'm at Love, Sex, Lies, and Reality, so they can connect with me there. I'm also on Instagram. They can connect with me there. As a matter of fact, I'm going live tonight on Facebook to do a video on mental health and a live on mental health, toxic relationships. Because a lot of us have that pain that we need to heal from, and as long as God gives me the voice, I will continue to speak about matters that people don't talk about.
Absolutely. Oh, that's wonderful. And how about, so can you give us your webpage one more time?
It's Kemi, Kemi online, all one word.com.
Okay. And your Facebook is it your name, or is it your Love, Sex, Lives,
It's
and
my
Reality?
name. They can find me on Facebook through my name, Kemi Shagunle, and they can also find me at Love, Sex, Lies, and Reality.
Okay. I want to spell your last name for the audience so they can find you. It's Kemi, Kemi, Shogunle, Sogunle. Okay, so they can find you, and I'd appreciate it if all of the listeners and the viewers would please take down this information and support all of her causes. It would be just absolutely beautiful. So I thank you so much, and let me remind the audience again that we are participating in Giving Tuesday on November the 27th. For WYTV7, award-winning WYTV7. So please make a donation if you can. Thank you so much, and we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye, Miss Kimmy.
Bye.